So give us the autumn story from the beginning.
Yeah. So my parents got married in 1970 and moved. My dad was a city kid, and my mom grew up in western Wisconsin, in a town. So she wasn't a farm girl necessarily. My dad was for sure not a farm guy. They bought 80 acres in Lake Elmo in 1972 and built a house and a barn. And my dad said, "I'm going to be a farmer." He had no family in farming, no experience in farming, but like we kind of talked about a little bit of that, I, this is really what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'll try something. So that went terribly until 1980, and he wasn't having much success with farming, and they were kind of down to their last dollar. And my dad talked a banker into letting him buy one hopper and one tractor day cab to take his grain to market because he couldn't afford to pay anybody else to do it. So, and he had a little experience before he and my mom got married of, he had a CDL driving, hauling milk, but not in a tanker, in like finished milk to the grocery store. And so he knew how to drive. And so he got his own grain to market that year. The banker took a chance on him. Don't know still to this day why. Well, I think we all kind of know why, because we ended up here, right? It was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had some local friends that are like, okay, well, do you want to just take my grain in? You can be doing that while we're combining and whatever. And that first year, he got his grain to market, didn't have to file bankruptcy on his farm, and then had the idea of, well, if I'm going to Mankato with soybeans, what do they ship out of Mankato? Soybean meal. I wonder how I can make that connection. And that's what started. It was Harvest Trucking at the time.
I was just going to ask.
Yep,
So,
Harvest
okay.
Trucking. And he had one truck and one hopper and did a little driving. And then he hired a local kid who's probably 18, probably went interstate when he shouldn't have in
Yep.
in 1980, and they just did a little. He got into commodities trading a little bit to be able to trade his own grain and his own commodities, and that's how the whole thing got started. And then that one truck and one hopper went to 3, and went to, I think, 7 at the most in 1982 or 83. And they were still running the business out of their home. So they decided they would rent some office space in Hastings, and they kind of took off as a real business. So that's how it started, out of a complete, like, looking failure in the face.
But it sounds like your dad, obviously, seems like a pretty smart guy. I mean, come from the city. It sounds like
Yep.
he was pretty educated.
No,
No? Okay.
no. He was kind of proud of this in a weird way. He was less than a C student in high school. His first year of college, failed out, went to a different college, failed out, and said, I think I should just be in business. With no degree. He would say he was the valedictorian of the School of Hard Knocks. So not an educated guy, and kind of proud of it. Learned all of his lessons the hard way, and always had a dream and took a chance. Never was afraid of failure at all. And in fact, before he married my mom, he started a teenage nightclub in St. Paul where it was all for underage, for dancing and, no booze. And he borrowed, I don't remember how much it was now, from his grandma to be able to start that. And he went bankrupt doing that. And I think his life's regret was that he never paid his grandma back because she passed.
Yeah.
She was proud of him, very proud of him.
So his tuition was those failures.
Oh, 100%.
That was his education.
That was his education.
Right. So your earliest memories, how big was the operation? Like when you kind of started to remember the trucking side?
Yeah. So growing up my mom is still on the farm where the whole thing started. We have a real long driveway. So at the very height of it before they moved, we had 7 tractor trailers parked up and down both sides of the driveway, and they'd run all winter, didn't plug them in. Didn't probably have the electricity to stretch that far. So my first memories, I was 10 to 12 before they moved to Hastings. And to me, it was just like, well, this is just what we do. Like, I had no interest really in trucks, or I was 12 years old.
Right.
And my younger sister was 9 or 10 at the time. We just kind of knew farming from growing up there, not so much the trucking piece. And then as they kind of grew and went to Hastings, came back to Woodbury, in the earlier years, when we probably had less than 10 owner-operators, my parents would host a family picnic up here in Lake Elmo where my dad would roast a hog, and had all the owner-operators could bring their wives and kids, and we'd have a picnic. And where my sister and I, at our age at the time, where we would participate in that, we had it at a place that has like a winter tube sliding, but then in the summer you can use their place for recreation. So they had a pop gun behind the bar. So my sister and I were in charge of pop and popcorn and making sure that everybody, kids and parents, had what they needed. And that was kind of our level of participation, and really nothing more. We talked a lot about the business at the dinner table. And I've said this a number of times, like Autumn was the third kid in our family. So it went Julie, Jill, Autumn, because it was, how was your day at school? What's going on? How are your grades? Here's what's going on at Autumn. And that was just our third kid at the table. So that was, I think my sister would say too, that was just our connectivity. It felt like a member of our family, but we were never in the weeds with it, ever. Our parents never asked us to work here.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Talk about back then and today. So your dad pretty much, it was an owner-operator model.
Yeah. So when we moved from the farm to Hastings with the business, is when it was just those first 2 years that he had company drivers, bought the trucks, bought the trailers, had company guys. My dad was not a mechanic and didn't want to run a shop, didn't feel like that was the direction he wanted to go. And, you know, when you think about it, they started it in 1980, and that's when we had deregulation also. Mm-hmm. So he had the idea, hey, there's other guys out here who own their own trucks. I can be hands off from the maintenance, which I'm not good at anyway, and let them manage their truck, and I'll provide the trailer and the dispatch basically, and move to that and never look back. And that was probably a good thing. And what it allowed us to do, even through today in our growth model and being able to service customers coast to coast, if we have a need with any particular customer, say St. Louis or Nashville, we can just lease on owner operators from that area without a terminal, without a shop, without all that overhead. So it's worked great for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So one thing, actually, I realized this, we were at another trucking company. Everybody up here says ICs instead of owner operators.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
It is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I heard a gentleman in the morning meeting said IC too.
Yeah.
But I thought that's interesting where, I don't know, down in our area, people always say owner ops.
Yeah. We interchange it. I think we're used to saying IC.
IC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you grew up in the business. What happens, you know, where's your path take you?
Yeah.
From high school graduation?
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to college, and I actually worked through high school and college in waitressing. Finished college, got a job in a restaurant right after college as a manager, learned how to hire and fire and do all of those, you know, super fun things that are all about managing people, and didn't like the hours of the bar or the bar scene as much either. So decided I was going to leave that and start to look for something. I thought I wanted to be in sales. So I was not living at home. So I was paying my own rent, but I quit my job, which, man, if I had kids, I would say, what are you doing? Right? Quit my job. And my dad said, you know, I've got a temp job so I'm going to date myself here, but this is 1995. was 25 years old, and he said, I got a temp job. All the dispatchers at Autumn at the time had their like practically Bible phone books. Like every important phone number is in that phone book or a
They call them the
Rolodex.
Bible, yeah.
Yep. And he said, we just got this new computer system. All this sounds so archaic when I tell the story. It's like, wow, we got a computer. Why don't you take all of their phone books and put them into this software, because we're going to start to use that software. It was our very first software. It's called ACT for Windows. And we're going to track recruiting through that and our customer base through that. So I said, okay, great. So they set me up on a card table in the dispatch office at our old place where we rented. And I sat in the middle of 5 guys that were, in my eyes at the time, old. They were younger than I am today, but I was 25 years old, had no idea. I'd never been in the operation at all, but I loved the fast-paced part of the restaurant business. So I'm like, okay, I got to find something like that. Sat down, took the first phone book, and I'm plugging away, and I'm listening to these guys on the phone. And because of how our model works, we didn't have a salesperson. Like every dispatcher we've had is sales, customer service, the repair shop, trailer expert, marriage counselor, you name it, like every hat on the head at the same time. And so I'm listening to these guys, and it'd be one call with a customer, and they're so professional, and they'd hang up, and the next call is a really angry owner operator that's like, I'm late, or this is wrong, and they'd have to kind of coach them through that, and then turn around, look at their map, run some miles, put in a rate, and it was just constant and so much action. And I think my temp job lasted 3 weeks. And my dad said, what do you want to do? You're done here. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to keep looking for a job. He goes, you can be an assistant here if you want to. You can work for Max. Not work for my dad. You can work for Max. And he said, if you're interested. I said, I actually think this is kind of interesting. So Max we bought Max's company in 1984. He ran Max W. Bay Trucking, and he had tankers. And that's how we added tankers to our fleet, was buying Max.
What year was
our
that
first
again?
Acquisition, 84.
Okay.
And Max, I love him today. He lives in Arizona now, and he stops in once a year. If you could picture him just like the toughest old German guy that you can imagine, no feelings, hard on me, right? Just here's what we're going to do. But I learned so much from him on how to talk to, I'm going to say, drivers, and getting them. What all of these drivers were like, you're 25 years old and you're a girl. What could you possibly know about my job? Right? Tough to get their trust and get some street cred with them. I'd never driven a semi, didn't know what it was like to sleep in one. And Max gave me such an education the first couple years on trying to just like empathize, understand, and yet still feel like, hey, don't forget, you're in charge of their entire income. Like, you've got to make a good plan. You've got to understand how many hours they can drive way before ELDs. So I really kind of cut my teeth with Max, and he was tough on me, but a good tough. My dad was a Marine, so I understood tough. But Max didn't cut me any slack for being the owner's kid. In fact, probably harder on me because of that. And I caught the bug of just the trucking, the puzzle, the planning, the just constant excitement. And I loved it. I loved it. So here I am, 31 years later. I've sat in every seat in the building. I've dispatched every single one of our divisions as my own board for years. I've done recruiting, I've done safety, I've done all the ops. So I loved it.
So you talk about 1995. How big was the operation from there? And then just talk about the growth over the next really decade or so.
Yeah. So 95.
Because today you have how many on the road?
140.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't remember how many we had in 95. If I do some quick math, maybe 75, we had 50 hoppers in
Wow.
95. Yeah, still. And when I started, and then we had our maybe 10 or 12 tanks. I'm going to try to do the quick math. Had a dozen end dumps, no pneumatics yet. And yeah, that whole profile changed, right? In all of these years, we went from the most hoppers we had was 50. We've been all the way down to 12, and now back up to 25 or 26. Just the ebb and flow of really what the customer has wanted is what we've done. Our end dumps were much bigger, and now that's our smallest division at 8. And then I think it was in 96, right after I started, we bought 5 pneumatics and got rolling with that customer need driven. And now they're our biggest at 80.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I think from 75. And then I think our next big jump was when the North Dakota, Wisconsin fracking thing really took off.
Yep.
2007, 8,
Yep.
9-ish. We were able to get equipment and added some small cube pneumatics to be able to haul that frac sand. And we did that for 4 or 5 years and got out. It was taxing the team here. I mean, we were on call 24/7. You were on call overnight on a well site, and then you had to be back in here to work all day. And we just couldn't get enough people in the mix. And my parents were like, we're beating our people up, and that's not who we are. So we got out. Changed our pneumatic profile from small cube to large cube, hit the road trying to find new business, and have grown in all of our large cube now from there.
Talk about from the time your dad was at the helm to when you switched.
Yeah.
And how that process worked.
Ooh.
And again, talking about you went from never even thinking about being in this business to just kind of naturally falling into it.
Yeah.
And learning to love it.
Yes.
But then how did that transition to you now at the helm?
Yeah. I'll probably be teary-eyed. 20 years in ops and had done everything. And I, again, loved it. Loved the puzzle, loved the action, loved the intensity of it. And that's just like, I feel like it's just, you're working in the business. I never had the pressure of making the bank payment, making payroll. I was the employee, even though I'm the owner's kid, which I always hated that. I ran as fast as I could from that term because I always felt like people thought, oh, you must have it made.
Yeah.
Right. So then my dad was diagnosed in 2015 with brain cancer, aggressive, and 6 months from diagnosis to when he passed. And I was still loving what I was doing. I was kind of the operations manager and on that whole end of the building. My mom and dad had spent like maybe the 8 years prior to that, spending some winters out in California and trying to do their thing, gave me full trust to run the operation. Although, checking in and whatnot, I never had to worry about what if it really hits the fan, because I knew my dad would have a plan. Right? So then he passed, and the natural progression for me, even though this was never part of my plan, my dad wanted to retire when he was 80, never made it that far.
How old was he?
73. So I'm like, all right, I know the business. Let's see what I can do. But it was intimidating because all I had was the stories of what it was like to build the business. I never had the pressure of it. So to move into that seat was scary. I got a mentor to help me through it. And it's been awesome. It's been really awesome because in my first 20 years, it was learning from people older than me, more experienced than me, including my parents, not even just in trucking, but in life and how to live a good, honest life and have integrity and provide great service, whether it's here at Autumn or in the world we live in. But that extra pressure of, okay, now everybody's looking at you, was tough. I've had the complete blessing in the last 10 years to now start to raise up our younger leaders here, try to get out of their way, try to give them the wisdom that I've learned from people older than me and with more wisdom than me. And my goal now is to impart all of that on them so that they can take the reins. So
I love what you said that your dad always had the plan.
Yep.
So then you were stuck. I mean, just like that, it's all on your shoulders.
Right. So what if it hits the fan? What my dad would know what to do. How would I know what to do?
And you don't want to mess it up.
I don't want to mess it up. That was my biggest fear is, has it been perfect up until that point? My parents had years where they didn't make any money. They had years that they struggled. They had personnel problems. They had it all. That's part of running a business. But I never had to be the one that made the decision, right? I just got to be in the mix. And having that pressure of, okay, now it's on me. And for God's sake, don't mess it up, right? But I don't really love to play defense. I would rather play offense. So I think I got through that, like the don't mess it up. Like don't blow a 2-goal lead instead of let's score more goals.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
Yeah. So that was, that took a lot for me to get into that mindset of, okay, no, we're going forward. We're not looking back.
People always want to know from a founder mentality, obviously from one truck to 140 today, it's not just luck.
No.
There's effort and trials.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how did your dad lead to really get people on his team that wanted to work and have the mission to work for Autumn and grow this company? Like, what was he like?
No fear. A total no fear guy, but he was also a great relationships builder. So he really never worked in ops past 1984, right? He was our leader, our culture builder, and relationships mattered, and you could tell. So while he was tough, you knew he cared. And
So
I think,
what was he like because it's just inevitable in trucking. We don't want to see accidents happen or whatever,
Yeah.
but when one of these trucks got in an accident or rolled out there, or somebody messed up on a customer delivery, really blew it, looked bad for the company, how did he react?
he had already empowered everybody in the business to deal with it.
Really?
Yes. So dispatch, back when I started, the 5 guys I sat with, they were fully empowered to handle everything. They'd communicate it back to him, but he didn't take the call. He would maybe collaborate if a problem needed to be solved, but really pushed a lot of the responsibility, most of the responsibility, to the safety director and dispatch. So he focused more on running the back end of the business, getting good financing for his equipment, negotiating good deals at the bank, and then focused on building a culture where people wanted to come in every day.
So speaking on that, I'm going to speak about our company a little bit. One thing I've realized, it's always the people and hiring the talent on your team. Even now with technology, it's even more crucial to make sure you got the right people. How do you find the right people to come in and keep running the torch here, but really finding that exceptional talent that really is going to keep growing this business, not just maintain it, but get it to that next level?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. A lot of trial and error. Where we're at today, we've taken a chance. I'll use Josh Wallen as a perfect example. My dad and I went to the University of Wisconsin River Falls Career Fair. It's the only time we've ever gone to a career fair. We're like, hey, let's just give it a whirl. And Josh was there as a senior. had his resume ready and his shirt and tie. And we say it this way, he didn't even know how to spell truck. He had nobody in his family that was ever in trucking, nothing, but he was interested because he lived in Woodbury and Autumn was in Woodbury. So, and my dad liked him and I liked him at the interview. We're like, let's just give him a shot. We can put him under our senior recruiter. Greg can teach him how to recruit trucks and kind of throw the noodle at the wall and see if it sticks. Finding, and Josh is a perfect example of this, finding someone who has the values that match the company is the ticket. Do you have integrity? Do you provide service? Are you a good leader? And do you have like core family value? We can teach you to spell truck. We can teach you to route loads, rate loads, take a safety call.
And even technology today is even making that easier and easier.
Easier and easier, but you can't teach somebody to have those values. So it's been over time. I mean, and we have great longevity here in the office too, where our young people have been here 10 years plus and they're still in their 30s. So, and we've got some older people here too.
It doesn't look that way. What is a typical day in Julie's life? Like walk us from waking up till putting your head back down.
Yeah, I'm a very early riser. I'm up by 5 every day, and I generally try to be one of the first people here by 7. So like my Monday through Friday is kind of that. I come in, I say good morning to everybody when they're here. I'll work on things in my office, whatever those things might be.
What are those things?
I am involved in some other things too besides Autumn, as we've transitioned more and more of the responsibility to the operations people. I'm on my township board, so I do some work on that occasionally in here. I've been on a private school board also. I'm in the Women in Leadership for the Minnesota Trucking Association. So it kind of depends on what the day brings. I try to stay connected to the group, anybody in the group, because we really believe that leadership isn't just what's on your org chart. Mm-hmm. You can lead from your seat no matter what you do. So my door's open. So a day in my office life is a rotating circular door, just lots of people stopping in and, hey, let me run this by you. Hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, my daughter got engaged. Hey, I'm going to have a baby. So it's just kind of a revolving door, which I love, that everybody feels comfortable to come and do that. And then I
remember something about Augusta.
Oh,
travel planning or...
Yeah. That's been something that I've done. This will be my last year doing that. So I am kind of I'm done putting this year's trip together. But yeah, 31 years I've organized trips to the Masters. It's just something fun to do. My dad started that too, and I kind of just took that over from him when he got tired of it.
Are you a golfer?
I am a golfer. Yep. Less now than I used to be. I bought a farm in 2018.
Oh, nice.
And that you can farm or golf, but not both. If you do both, you're not very good at one. So, yeah.
Any kids?
No kids.
Okay.
Nope. Just my dog.
So what does free time look like?
Free time for me, I love to cook. I love to host and entertain. I spend a lot of time with my family. We talk about this a lot. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And I would describe myself as an ambivert. I get a lot of energy from people to a certain degree, but I can really recharge being quiet and alone. So everybody thinks I'm an extrovert because I like to talk and kind of loud sometimes, most of the time. But my true recharge is at the farm. I'm in my garden. I'm with my chickens. I'm on my tractor. Quiet.
I love that.
Yeah, just quiet.
So what does the next 20 years look like for Julie?
Yeah. Well, I'm 50.
I'm asking this because I'm trying to figure out mine.
Okay. For sure, my plan is to be here at least the next 10 in some capacity. So if that is that I can replace myself as president and stay CEO for a period of time, I'd love to do that. And we're working on that here. When the CEO presents him or herself, I will step aside and maybe be chairman of the board. But I would like to still have a place to come here because the energy here does fill me up. I would like to get involved in more community service in some fashion. I also, like 10 years ago, started a concert fundraiser in my neighborhood. I live on a lake, and we raise money for the local food shelf. We bring in a band, and last year I think we raised 35 grand in one day for the food shelf. That's meaningful to me, to just try to stay connected to your community. And the community I live in is small. Our township is 2,700 people. It's pretty rural. But I'm learning in my service with the township that the local government unit is pretty powerful.
Yep.
And the connecting with your neighbors matters. It still matters.
A couple more questions and we'll be done. If there is anything that bothers you or keeps you up, what are those? What's that reoccurring thing that just kind of that driver that you always think about?
Yeah. Crazy lawsuits. You try to do everything the best you can. We've got everything buttoned up, and you hire great attorneys to button you up, and just the insane amount of frivolous lawsuits that are out there are maddening to me. I could pound my fist and say it's not fair. It's not. But it's where we're at, right? And that keeps me up at night.
It's funny you say that. That was one of the topics I didn't say out there, but we talked about when I was on stage at the NGFA, these specifically nuclear verdicts, and just the detriment that it's having on the trucking industry.
Yeah.
And how people don't realize it's not just the effect on the truckers, but affects all of us indirectly.
Yes.
That's getting paid through the supply chain in some shape or form.
And these third-party funded suits are, I don't know how it's legal.
Yeah.
Can we talk about one more thing? Because I know before we stand up and walk around,
Sure.
Because I know you're a faith-filled guy and you wear your faith on your sleeve, and your autumn is no different. And when I think about what may have kept my parents up at night, what keeps me up at night, I think is minimized because my whole family has believed, and I believe, God has his hand on this place.
Yeah.
So what's to worry about?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I feel identical. I say the same thing all the time.
Yep.
That's where the peace comes in, to know that he built it, he'll sustain it.
Yep.
It's all in his hands.
Yep.
It's not in our control. But
No.
his.
And he'll grow it in his time.
Yep.
He'll humble us in his time.
Yep.
And you just keep the faith. So I do sleep pretty good. I have to be honest. I don't worry because it's not in my control. I can control my attitude and my effort, right? And loving on my people here like they're my family, because they are. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Your dad, what do you remember him saying the most to you?
We have
I always love, because I learned so much from my father and even my father-in-law that really instilled a lot of great business practice, but just great knowledge, faith guy.
Yeah.
But what were some of those things you can remember your dad telling you that it's just that isms that you hear over and over that sound wisdom?
Yeah. So I'll show you. We have, when he passed, the team here created a framed piece of art that was handmade of Lolisms because he had them. And he had a lot of them.
Lolisms?
Lolisms.
I like it.
And we still say them today. Both my sister and I spoke at my dad's funeral, and I used 3 Lolisms as the cornerstones of my eulogy. One would be, and he would say it this way: people respect what you inspect, not what you expect. So as a manager, don't expect, or a leader, don't expect things from people without asking them about it. And then he'd say, try to catch people doing something right, not wrong, so that when something does go wrong, you've built up chips in your jar of compliments and encouragement.
Tokens.
And so that you can have the hard conversation of, you know what, we missed the mark here. Let's talk through it. So people respect what you inspect, not what you expect. And inspecting doesn't mean micromanaging. It means just try to catch people doing something right. That's an inspection, right? You get a level 1 clean inspection. The other hardships are the pathway to peace.
Ooh.
That was one of his all-time favorites. So if I had a bad day down in ops, I'd come down, and I'd come to his office and I'd say, today stinks. Don't forget, hardships are the pathway to peace. You'll get through it. It'll be good at the end. And I'm trying to remember the third one that I talked about at his funeral. And I'm drawing a blank on it. It's been almost 11 years. But some of his other Lolisms they're hilarious in some ways also, but we say them. I'll show you it's in my mom's office. I'll show it to you. It's pretty cute.
My father-in-law, so speaking of lawsuits, I went through a terrible one.
Okay.
And 6 years ago when he was still alive. And when I talked to him about it, he said, Jared, just remember, your competition is always going to make you better.
Oh.
And at the time, I'm like, I don't need to hear that. I just need to hear, and he's like, but he would say, he's like, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is going to make you better. And never felt like it in the moment, but I look back and I was like, I don't ever want to go through a lawsuit again, but it was one of the biggest blessings because one of my biggest fears I ended up facing and coming out better for it. And I just look at it. But that's just one I had to share, that he just remember, your competition is going to make you better.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And that was one that he stole from Sam Walton, who he worked under
he
at
did.
Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
very cool. I got to talk, we didn't touch, tell us real quick and we'll end about your mom. She's still around.
Yes.
Does she ever come to the office?
Yes.
Do you ever
Yep. My mom was always the silent partner of my dad, because my dad had a lot more words than my mom, right? He was the gregarious one, and she's always worked here. She did the books early on, but she still does payroll. So she's here at least once or twice a week. She just taught my sister in the last year to do payroll as her backup.
So your sister's involved too?
So she just got involved this last year,
Okay.
just learning payroll. But yeah, my mom, still comes to work and loves coming to work for I think a lot of the same reasons I do. This is her family. She's got my sister and me, and she's got 2 grandsons and 2 grand dogs. But this is otherwise kind of her family.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, she was the quiet one, but kind of strong behind the scenes, right?
Yep.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you for for
Yes.
sharing this story. So honored to be here.
Thank you. We're honored to just be included in your storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.